And it's just such, well, I'm a little dumbstruck actually at the moment, but it's a good thing. Catherine, the next time we do this, I think we're going to need to book the Fargo Theater. Absolutely. Not at all. We are just over our legal limit for seating. And we're restraining our standing limit as well. We do have at least one here. And for folks who don't feel like they have the best view here on the main level, I suggest going up to the bridge just above me. It's a strange vantage point for a talk, but it does work. My goodness. So in 17 days, we're going to be having the 66th Midwestern Exhibition. The math on this is always a little funny. It means that this organization will be 65 years old. We're ready for retirement yet, besides which we couldn't afford it. What it means materially is over the 65 years, we have shown the work of hundreds upon hundreds of great artists, which is to say, they have made really great bodies of work. But within that, I think there's a subcategory of what our founding director, James Rourke, would call legendary artists. And I think the distinction is this. They make the work, and it is truly great. But beyond that, these are individuals who have had a lasting impact on our collective cultural experience here. And Catherine Esmond Mulligan is clearly one of those legendary artists. I'm also going to put a stage hand here a little bit, as I thought, so forgive me. So, thanks first and foremost to Catherine for being willing to share her work with us once again, for making the trek up here. I absolutely have to thank Reba Mathern Jacobson for her devotion to Catherine and Catherine's vision. In our printing materials, we acknowledge Reba as co-curator, but it's so much more than that. She documented the work. She packed the work. She made multiple round-trip, cross-country treks to bring the work here, all the while being just an unbelievably devoted friend to Catherine and her family. So, Rita, next, Rita's daughter, Mila, whose love and support of her mother and Catherine also helped to bring this entire project into being. Catherine's son, Shawn, being in this shoulder to shoulder with Catherine, Reba, and Mila. Oh goodness. And it's just been such a treat getting to know all four of you through this experience. So, from my heart, my absolute deepest gratitude. We also want to thank Sam and Coralie Y for providing support for our musicians today. Direct exhibition support from Emma and Nick Vogel as well. Thanks to Nick and Emma. Always, we'd be nowhere without our members. Members sustained us during our lean years and have helped to power the Rourke into making exhibitions like this possible. So thank you to all of our members, but in particular today, I want to acknowledge Mary Vogel, whose incredible sustained support has made all the difference for our organization between existence and non-existence. So I don't think Mary is here today, but if you see her out and about in Moorhead, do give her up. With that, it's a pleasure to offer this microphone to Catherine's son, Shawn P.
Thank you, everyone. Is this on?
Is this on?
I want to thank everybody for coming out. And for those of you that are above me, people often say this is the best side. Guests of the Rourke, friends and family, I'm so happy to be here to celebrate Catherine Mulligan, my mother, her artistry, her work as an educator, and the community she fosters. If there's any doubt about who Catherine Mulligan is, just simply look around the room. The incredible assemblage of individuals that we have here today. My mother and I have to thank Jonathan, Katie, and the incredible staff at the Rourke for everything they've done in creating this exhibition. The heart, which was just evidenced so articulately by Jonathan, our heartfelt congratulations. That's not the word. Right. We want to also thank everybody that made this exhibition possible. We heard the words about Reba, and I would like to echo those. Mila, thank you so much for all the TLC and your entire family is incredible, so thank you. Also like to thank Chris Anderson, who's here today for the wonderful film. If you haven't had an opportunity, please recommend that you see it. It's upstairs. And my task here today is simple. To introduce and to celebrate two individuals who individually, collectively, have followed their visions of creativity, inclusivity, with advanced education and community building. I'll first speak about my mother, who I've had the great privilege of a front row seat through our artistic journey, and now I'll turn to Richard, a great friend and collaborator. As I was coming of age in Fargo and Moorhead in the late 70s, think REO Speedway in Kansas. My mother, who was born an artist, started her formal artistic education at Oregon State University under the great Lyle Lasky. She earned a Master's of Science in Art at the University of Coast. As an artist, Catherine was the first female visual artist to win granted the North Dakota Governor's Award for the Arts. Throughout her career, she's been honored by the John K. Center for the Performing Arts and traveled internationally to Australia, Russia, and China. Her work is in countless private, public, and institutional collections on 4 continents and throughout the United States. As an educator, she played a pioneering role in the Creative Arts Studio program, a program that I'm heartened to see so many of you have come back to honor Catherine. Catherine also was a professor, and I've seen a few students at North Dakota State University where she lectured in the arts. Beyond her work as an artist and as an educator, Catherine always fosters community. With her good friend, James O'Rourke, and many local artists, my mother was all about celebrating the creative spirit in this particular region. I can't imagine my recall is accurate, it seemed to be that almost every other night in our home in North Fargo, we had an art salon. Musicians, poets, visual artists, creatives were always welcome at the home of Patrick and Catherine. In the early 80s, in the midst of this vibrant art community in Fargo Moorhead, Catherine met Richard, and the remarkable partnership began. Over the decades of their relationship, their collaboration has touched my heart and many others. The work that we see upstairs is a wonderful manifestation of the connection that Richard and Catherine have to each other and to this planet. My mother is an artist to her very fabric. And clay, in her own words, was the last medium that she ever thought she would work with. It took Richard to show her what clay was and what it could be, and he has. Richard is a driven artist, a master potter with a great eye. His early apprenticeship in Japan led to the creation of the founding of St. John's Pottery in 1979. A wonderful, thriving environment, which is one of my favorite places on the planet to be. Through his brilliance, resiliency, hard work, and his ability to connect with other agents of positive change, like his wonderful life partner, Coralie, Richard is an individual that I hold in such high esteem. He is an educator, an environmentalist, and a humanist. And I'm so excited to hear what he has to say today. Richard.
I'm not as talented as Shawn, so I'm going to need to stand here. Thank you to the Mulligan family for the invitation to present a short message. It's short. To Catherine, and to the guests present, many of you dear friends from over many years here at the beautiful Rourke Art Museum, which we all cherish. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you to Reba and to Mila. And they've worked with Catherine at the St. John's Pottery in 2022 to create very large fish vessels that probably from the table up to about here. And these three women were working so incredibly, touching these surfaces and with this wonderful direction. And so they did heroic work and actually working with Catherine with that energy. Also, Reba and Mila did heroic work in photography and cataloging Catherine's artwork to her older studio and home. Numerous trips, as Shawn has said, transporting clay from finished works back and forth between Vogel and the St. John's Pottery. Thank you, Jonathan, Director of the Rourke Museum, and the staff of the Rourke Museum for their work in creating this really beautiful exhibition. You've really done a really wonderful job in presenting this exhibition of Catherine Mulligan's artwork, where even the shadows of the prints are reflecting into the work. It's really stunning. Jonathan, thank you. Architects have mentioned in their lectures not only their own works, but working historically, that architecture is the mother of all arts. Well, they obviously haven't met Catherine Mulligan. Over the course of 44 years, Catherine has created sculpture works for each firing of the Woodburn St. John's Pottery. First wood kiln in Takayama fired numerous 3-foot-high female sculptural forms, and seated and standing female figures forms reaching maturity of pregnancy were fired in numerous sets with sculptural pylons of Stonehenge-like monuments with the shadows of the female forms on the surface. With stunning results, these fertility figures have been a constant thread in the creative play path in a variety of works over the 4 decades of creating local plays at St. John's Pottery. Jonathan was kind enough to bring down 4 examples of Catherine's pieces in this exhibition for us to kind of just highlight transitional moments in Catherine's life. Over the 1997 Jerome Foundation residency, Catherine Mulligan had been reading about the 18th century slave trade. Catherine, in the evenings, we would talk and was moved by the accounts of mothers in Ireland giving their babies to strangers boarding the ships from Cork, destined for America, in hopes that the children would survive the starvation in Ireland at the hands of the British. This prompted Catherine to create her first vessel forms, thickly handmade in the shape of boats, with a female figure at the prow and 2 pregnant women seated face to face, with the oars of the boats lying useless and without a rudder to steer in their direction. These haunting forms of our inhumanity to each other can be found on page 173 of the letter written by Dr. Matthew Welsh, Deputy Director of Minneapolis Institute of Arts. The boat figures here on the left are from that series. The boat with the 2 fertility figures and now enjoying the fish, the fertility of fish, who expanded that inclusion of their fertility into that rudderless boat. This was also fired in the Tanegashima chamber. The next figure is seed pod portrait. These portraits began when Catherine was losing her eyesight. In this exhibition, after the move from Fargo to Boulder, Colorado, the seed pods began to be created. And I have a quote that I'd like to present to you from the late Wada Morihito's renowned ceramic sculptor from Japan. He said, "The first objects humans made were vessels, and it is the vessel making that allows us to recognize our humanity. I believe that the reason humans feel close to the vessel form is that they hope to imbue the vessel with the human trait of habit. Seed savers for thousands of years have created vessels to carry forward growth and a relationship with this earth. Catherine, using the plants grown from her garden in Boulder, impressed them into the surface with the sculptural heads of human beings at the top, and calling us to be responsible for the timeless ritual of regeneration and growth. Environmental destruction and pollution of fresh and salt waters of the planet Earth are represented by the numerous swarms of fish in the nesting pods sanctuary. Small bull-like shapes with fish and eggs carried through much of her later works, fired in the Johanna kiln from 1995 to 2024. And here's a beautiful example of those fish pod with egg and bowl. These images, a few years ago on Science News, the images of the ocean floor in Antarctica discovered a rare Arctic fish that made nesting bowls in a grid fashion. When I saw that image, I immediately thought of Catherine, and how rare and endangered those fish are, and how rare and endangered we are today. Catherine's bowl and egg and fish series From that, hundreds of eggs have been made from the local quarry over the 32 firings of the Takigama kiln and the 17 firings of the Johanna kiln. In Catherine's early residency in 1982, she described her childhood on the farm, collecting eggs with her family, multi-generations, grandparents, with her task being the sanding of the eggs. This was to polish them so the family could sell them to the local community. Polishing thousands of eggs embedded into a deep understanding of life, of the egg, and its fragility. Ma Butterworth, Bellfire in the Johanna kiln 2013, the use of commercial images and forms that categorize, marginalize, and degrade women have always been part of Catherine's resilience, strength to be a creative power in the care of this earth and the eco-mutual relationship with humanity. Ma Butterworth is beautifully painted with white and iron slit plates to expand the contrast of the earth tonalities of the Tanagashi chamber. Catherine Mulligan is a true mother of art. Her sculpture works call out what it is to be a mother. Her teaching of creative process making to children at the Creative Arts Center in Vogel, North Dakota for many years nurtured hundreds of children in the creative spirit, one of them Reba. At the same time, she was teaching undergraduate sculpture to North Dakota State University Art Department, challenging young adults not only to create for a class, but as art as a system of thinking and feeling. Catherine and Patrick Mulligan and their children welcomed artists of all mediums from around the world into their home for nourishment. Their hospitality and care of the others was thoughtful and filled with action, as the intense focus Catherine gave to her playmaking. On a side note, Mark Strand sent a recent email and said, the people who bought Pat and Catherine's home in Fargo, North Fargo, are really going to be surprised when 200 people show up after the exhibition for the after party.
And stay late.
Stay late.
So when Patrick would travel north for the annual fishing trip to the sanctuary of the Boundary Waters Canoe region of northern Minnesota, he would stop by and drop off new works of Catherine's that had been created on the way, and then pick out clay washed and aged for Catherine to create new sculptures with on his way home. New works fired in the Johanna kiln would be cleaned and loaded, transported by friends and family to Catherine's studio in Boulder, Colorado, to be met by the loving joy of a mother bringing her children home. Each piece is caressed, slowly touching the surfaces of the wood-fired gifts, speaking to her mother in their journey. Thank you.
Sure, I'll answer. But I made it up and I make something different up tomorrow. If I can get up.
You can. You can.
I don't even like, I talked over grills. Any pneumatic tool you name it, I talked over it. Or drawing board squeaks. So if you have any questions, that's okay. If you don't, that's okay. Any questions?
If you have questions, raise your.
Talk see any types of questions because her attorney is present.
May I take your picture, Catherine?
Yes, you may. One of my creative artist projects.
We were on
She
staff,
was always there for everybody.
and you taught me to be assertive and, yeah,
Can you believe it?
yeah.
You know, they don't have to.
I was so young and naive, and you were so solid. Right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sir?
I'm your nephew. That's beside the point. Can you speak about some of your European travels and work that you did, like in Australia and wherever else it was?
Yeah, in Australia, I was granted six fellowships in different medias, and John F. Kennedy Center paid for us, and they said never again would we send them overseas. We really knew how to do it. But anyway, I traveled 2,700 K and sang the beauty of the land, because the original people, the Aboriginal, sang the land so they could trade, the population could move, and by their singing of the land, they could make a map so you could travel anyway. So I had a photographer and another visual artist work with me, and we stayed wherever, in homes, in leather couches, in little shacks, whatever. And I, instead of disturbing the land, I placed objects and then documented them, removed them, and then to the Poetry of Memory, I did an exhibition, and it showed in the Embassy in Washington. And the idea was to do the same thing in North Dakota. It was the centennial of the two countries. But North Dakota did not have the money to support it. We need our national government to be whole and rich.
Amen.
Amen.
With that, then I did detente in Russia and China. And Jim said, why don't you go someplace nice like that? I somehow, I'm very dyslexic and learn in a different way. So it was like within this box, all these great things came to me. And I don't know why, but Yvonne, you and Jim were a great part
Can't comment. I knew that Catherine was always interested in the arts and in learning. She never gave up. Here, old professor who sat around the corner from her, lived next to her. She never gave up the idea of getting the best education. She had earned a bachelor's degree, and so we sat around and chatted, and she earned a master's degree after all years of thinking about art and reading children. I should never forget how much time and effort you put into writing your papers, your master's thesis, and you did it in spite of the fact that you had your ideas, but you also knew that you wanted to be part of the learning situation. And she indeed turned out to be a professional that of whom I'm grateful for.
Thank you, God.
Yeah, no.
Catherine? Sandy wants to say something.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your song lines?
Oh, the song lines came out of my singing, of getting the opportunity to travel the land of Australia and having the poetry of memory and finding, what was the original question?
Estes Park.
What?
Estes Park.
So then when I got here, Wednesday was our free day. We had grandchildren and different things, but nobody bothered us on a Wednesday. And Patrick and I, every Wednesday, summer or winter, would go out to Rocky Mountain National Park. And I would send to people the song lines. I'd send, I think, 2 photographs, and hey, I'm a poet. 6 lines. And they weren't haiku, they were just cat. So I sang Rocky Mountain National Park. That's my second home. Oh,
Catherine, you are such an ambassador for art. I would like you to tell a little bit about how you started your resin sculptures. With resin.
Oh, okay, the resin came out of plastic, right? And it came out of, it did some good things. You know, one is progress, one is not, you know, I don't know. But I picked that up at a California conference, and Bruce Beasley and some of these guys, you know, they did the shields and stuff when they went out to pick up the astronauts that went down and all this thing. So my original education was at Purdue University, and that's a science school. And it was not the art school. You know, it was agriculture, engineering. I wore a slide rule on my head. So science is the basis of my art, and I don't know if that was but thank you for all your support in the arts. I mean, you were one of the voices, and you know, driving across that cold North Dakota to those meetings, I fell in love with
It was fun with her.
Any other questions? I can stop anytime or I can talk forever. I'm a mama.
Can you talk more about your 2-dimensional pieces?
Say again?
Talk more about your 2-dimensional pieces. Your prints and your paintings.
2-dimensional, you know, everything is, I taught for a living. And I was lucky. Vince Lindstrom, the National Endowment, they found me somewhere. And question? So I had money. I hired artists. I mean, I paid them to come in. You know, instead of giving their time free and the kids paid, I paid the artists, the kids got it free. And the artists would come in and I would be their assistant and help them. So, hey, you tell me photography, you know, anything. I never went to the clay room. Right? So, anyway, that's how I learned every medium. And I studied with the best from all over. You know, I could pay them if I could get a connection, and then Moorhead State and NDSU sometimes would unite with me. And so then we could afford more because we were cooperating, we were dividing. I don't know what that means.
Could you talk about your motivation for being involved with the Creative Studio, the Creative Arts Program?
There were some visionaries that came here, and one of them was Vince Lindstrom, and my hat goes off to Vince. And he said, the first person said it won't work. And So he called me and I said, well, I'm filling a full-time, half-time pay, and not as at NDSU. And he said, okay. And so then he hired me through the National Endowment. I got paid. The National Endowment paid you then. Nancy Hanks, way back when, took that endowment, pushed it up to the top. Pushed it up to the top. A woman, Nancy Hanks. Anyway, through sous chefing, I call it fabulous. I'm a woman who cooks. So anyway, through being assistant to artists from all over the United States, I don't think I had any foreign artists here, but I learned their technique, and in my program, I was an artist in residence. My students learned the technique, and I never coddled students. Hey students, how many of you did I coddle? Raise your hand. They say, where's such and such? And I say, go look. You're an artist here, go look. No, I'm teasing a little bit. We all help each other out, and students taught each other. There was a great deal of that. And so, I'm probably not answering the question. What was the question? Did I answer it?
It's okay.
What motivated them?
What motivated you?
Money, maybe. Power structure. I mean, I had a family. I had 3 kids to send to university because we Patrick started with the FDIC, and if we had an overdraft, they'd arrest him. So I was parallel people working together, and so my job was kids. His was keep it together. So that's how. And I don't think in my bubble that I lived in with the dyslexia that I ever thought I couldn't do anything. My mother never taught me I couldn't do it. She never taught me to lie. She always knew if I did. It wasn't an issue, but it was the issue that you do better. You take responsibility. So, does that help answer the question? So when Vince came along, I thought I could do it. And we did it. We did it our way. And so that's what I had learned. Hey, what if we fudged the 20 students? Who gives a damn? Who cares? Who cares? In that sense, there was no big brother. They trusted you, and you took the responsibility.
Bravo.
So can you talk about what you're working on right now?
Right now, I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm working on body. Jackie, does anybody remember Jackie?
Yeah.
So I would go to MSU, speaking of body. Doc Bo, Jack Youngquist, these old, wonderful educators that you don't know, educate artists. Let me in any class, no pay. You know? So I could go in and draw. I raised kids for 12 years. And then I went back to university. So I was older. Lastly, my critic professor, I was older than you. mature woman, we won't say older, we won't say mature woman, was, you know, like, in with all these wonderful young people, and I didn't know that I wasn't one of them. So that kind of impressed me on that story. Thank you. Did it answer it?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the meaning that you understand your fish to have that you hope they carry into the world of your work?
Somebody shout a question, please.
Oh, sorry. Can you tell us about the meaning of the fish that reoccurs in your work that you hope they carry forward?
I think I came from a fish. I've always been in love with fish bone. I'm trying to think when I went into St. Petersburg or whatever they call it now. You know, I saw those fish bones in one of the museums, and I saw the hands, the fin. I saw the fish, and it was me. My husband used to leave me all the time to fish too. I started out drawing studies from, you know, Battle Lake, when I take the kids down there for their vacation. I don't know, fish or me. So, I don't know. There was somebody else in front, but
Somebody asked you to hear a story of the wildflowers that are in the prints upstairs.
the wildflowers, an NDSU professor and his daughter, he taught her the wildflowers or the weeds of North Dakota. Had them in a garage in a newspaper, and they were going through the garage. They couldn't throw them away. You know, father, son, and son, daughter, and whatever. But anyway, they said, Catherine. So they brought them to me, and that's when the wildflowers, like if you look in my eggs upstairs, too, everyone has a print of a wildflower. Yeah. So it's that moment in time when that thing grew. It's that print, it's that sentinel looking, caring about that. So all that came from a daughter and a father sharing and equally learning something that was important. One learned and then we shared it.